To healthcare, rural East Texas may have a bigger challenge. Some are being called healthcare deserts. There's not enough doctors, there's not enough nurses or facilities to serve those communities in the future.
Today, a group of UT Tyler medical students got to see firsthand the unique health issues and hazards that can affect those who live and work in rural communities, particularly those on farms. KLTV's April Peardant has the story from Palestine.
John Reed.
I gained about 24 hours.
And his wife,
we use this as a tool.
Marie Reed, have lived on their ranch property since 1978 in Palestine.
My husband calls it the Reed Ranch.
And today they were able to share it with medical students from UT Tyler.
They just kind of showed us the different tools they use on their farm, and they can be incredibly dangerous.
Such as the batwing mower. It's just one hazard of the job farmers face often.
The whole purpose of this is to show us when we're working in clinics, like, there's other things like a part of public health that hurt people. It's not just like about cardiovascular disease or diabetes. It goes farther, like exposures and trauma.
Farm businesses with 10 or fewer working on the land aren't required to report injuries to Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA.
We have really, really high injury and fatality rates in this sector. We would argue that they are very, very underreported.
And when someone is hurt, getting emergency medical help to a farm or rural setting can cost valuable life-saving minutes.
It takes about 25 minutes for an ambulance to get here after you call 911.
Reed says the next generation of medics will play a crucial role in supporting health care in rural communities.
The doctors that I'm associated with, even now, is with my personal physician and doctors I've worked with professionally, they're all retiring. And so we need these younger doctors coming on board.
And she says providing them with a hands-on experience is just the first step. April Peardant, KLTV 7 News.
UT Tyler coursework on population health system science will continue site visits to rural settings next semester.